My name is Emily Carter, and I used to be alive. I mean, really alive, not just breathing and walking around, but truly living. I had everything: a beautiful home in the suburbs, a handsome husband named David who I'd been married to for 10 years, a successful career as an architect, friends who envied my perfect life. But on October 31, Halloween night, everything changed. That was the night I became a ghost. I know what you're thinking. Ghosts aren't real. Dead people don't come back. But I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. Because I died that night. And somehow, impossibly, I'm still here, watching, waiting, and planning my revenge. Let me tell you how it happened. It started as a normal Halloween. David and I were hosting our annual costume party at our house. We did it every year, invited all our friends, decorated the house with fake cobwebs and plastic skeletons, served fancy appetizers and expensive wine. I dressed as a vampire queen in a long black dress with a red cape. David was a vampire king to match. We looked perfect together, like we always did. The perfect couple with the perfect life. "Emily, you look stunning," my best friend Rachel said when she arrived. She was dressed as a witch, which seemed fitting somehow. "Thanks, Rach. You look great too." But Rachel wasn't really looking at me. She was looking past me, at David, who was across the room talking to some of our neighbors. And the look in her eyes made something cold twist in my stomach. I shook it off. Rachel was my best friend. We'd known each other since college. She would never betray me. How wrong I was. As the party went on, I kept noticing weird things. David and Rachel would look at each other when they thought no one was watching. When I came into a room, they would suddenly stop talking and act casual. Around 10 p.m., I went upstairs to get more wine glasses from our bedroom closet. As I walked down the hallway, I heard voices coming from our guest bedroom. I stopped outside the door. It was slightly open, and I could hear David's voice. "We have to tell her soon," he was saying. "This lying is killing me." "Not yet," a woman's voice replied. It was Rachel. "We need to wait for the right time." "There's never going to be a right time," David said. "Emily deserves to know the truth." My heart started pounding. What truth? What were they talking about? I pushed the door open. David and Rachel jumped apart, looking guilty. "Know what truth?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Emily, we were just—" David started. "Just what? Having a secret conversation about me at my own party?" Rachel's face went pale. "It's not what you think. Then what is it? What's going on?" David took a deep breath. "Emily, we need to talk. But not here. Not now. After the party. No," I said firmly. "Right now. Tell me right now what's going on." David and Rachel looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Then David turned to me with an expression I'd never seen before, guilt mixed with something else. "Relief?" "Emily, Rachel and I have been seeing each other," he said quietly. The words didn't make sense at first. My brain couldn't process them. "Seeing each other? What do you mean?" "We're in love," Rachel said, and she actually had the nerve to reach for David's hand. "We have been for almost a year. We didn't mean for it to happen, but—" "A year?" I screamed. "You've been having an affair for a year? Both of you? My husband and my best friend?" The party noise downstairs suddenly seemed very far away. The room was spinning. "Emily, please. We wanted to tell you," David started. "Get out!" I screamed at Rachel. "Get out of my house right now!" Rachel ran from the room, tears streaming down her face. David tried to reach for me, but I backed away. "Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me." "Emily, let me explain." But I couldn't listen. I ran from the room, down the stairs, past all our party guests who were now staring at me. I grabbed my car keys from the hall table and ran out into the night. I got in my car and started driving. I didn't know where I was going. I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. My husband, my best friend, together, for a year. How had I not seen it? How had I been so blind? Tears poured down my face, making it hard to see the road. I was driving too fast, taking curves too sharply. But I didn't care. Part of me didn't care if I crashed. My phone kept ringing. David calling. Rachel calling. I ignored them both. I drove out of our suburban neighborhood onto the dark country roads that led to the lake. It was nearly midnight now, and the roads were empty. Just me and my broken heart and the darkness. That's when I saw the headlights behind me. At first, I thought it was just another car, but then I noticed it was following me, matching my speed exactly, staying close behind me. I sped up. The car behind me sped up too. My heart started pounding for a different reason now. Who was following me? Why? I took a sharp turn onto a side road. The car followed. I accelerated, going dangerously fast on the narrow, winding road. The car stayed right behind me, its bright headlights filling my rearview mirror. I tried to see who was driving, but the lights were too bright. All I could make out was a dark shape behind the wheel. Fear replaced my heartbreak. Something was very wrong. The road I was on led along a cliff overlooking the lake. On one side was solid rock face. On the other side was a guardrail, and then nothing, just 100-foot drop to the dark water below. The car behind me suddenly accelerated and rammed into my back bumper. I screamed and gripped the steering wheel, fighting to keep control. What was happening? Who was trying to kill me? The car rammed me again. Harder this time. My car swerved toward the guardrail. I hit the brakes, but the other car didn't slow down. It smashed into me one more time, and I felt my car break through the guardrail. For a moment, everything was silent. I was flying through the air, suspended between the cliff and the water. Then my car hit the lake with a tremendous crash. Water poured in through the broken windows. Cold, dark, suffocating water. I tried to unbuckle my seatbelt, but it was stuck. I pulled and pulled, but it wouldn't release. The car was sinking fast. Water was up to my chest, then my neck, then over my head. I held my breath as long as I could, still fighting with the seatbelt, but it was no use. My lungs burned. I had to breathe, but there was only water. I took a breath of cold lake water, and everything went dark. I opened my eyes and gasped for air. I was lying on the shore of the lake, soaking wet and freezing cold. But I was alive. How was I alive? I had drowned. I was sure of it. I sat up slowly, looking around. It was still nighttime, but something felt different. Wrong. I looked at my hands. They seemed translucent, like I could almost see through them. What was happening to me? I tried to stand up, but I felt strange, light, like I barely weighed anything. I walked back toward the road, toward where my car had gone over the cliff. But when I got there, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There were police cars everywhere, ambulances, divers in the water, and on the shore, covered by a white sheet, was a body. My body. I stood there, staring at my own dead body, and the truth crashed over me like a wave. I was dead. I had drowned in my car at the bottom of the lake. But somehow, I was still here, still conscious, still able to see and think and move. I was a ghost. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to touch one of the police officers, but my hand went right through him. This couldn't be happening. This wasn't real, but it was real. Somehow, impossibly, I had died and come back as a spirit, trapped between the world of the living and whatever comes next. I saw David arrive at the scene. He looked devastated, crying and shaking as the police told him they had found my body. "No, no, no," he sobbed. "This can't be happening, Emily. No." Part of me wanted to comfort him, but another part, a darker part, remembered what he had done. He and Rachel had betrayed me, and now I was dead. Was it just an accident, or was it something more? For the next few days, I followed David everywhere. He couldn't see me or hear me, but I was there, watching. I watched him plan my funeral. I watched him cry. I watched him act like the grieving husband. But I also watched him text Rachel constantly. I watched them meet in secret, and I heard what they said to each other. "I feel so guilty," Rachel said, crying in David's arms 2 days after I died. "If we hadn't told her that night, she wouldn't have driven off. She'd still be alive." "It was an accident," David said, but his voice sounded strange, uncertain. "Are you sure?" Rachel asked. "Are you absolutely sure?" David pulled away from her. "What are you saying? I'm saying that you were gone for almost an hour that night. You left the party right after Emily did. Where did you go, David? My ghostly heart would have stopped if it could still beat. Where had David gone that night? At my funeral, I watched everyone cry. My parents were devastated. My coworkers looked shocked. Even Rachel cried, though I noticed she and David stood on opposite sides of the church. The police ruled my death an accident. They said I was driving too fast on a dangerous road in an emotional state. The guardrail was old and weak. It was a tragic accident, but I knew the truth. Someone had run me off that road. Someone had murdered me, and as a ghost, I was going to find out who. After the funeral, I followed David home. He went straight to his office and locked the door. I walked through the wall and watched him open his laptop. He pulled up his email and started typing to someone. But it wasn't Rachel. The email address was just a string of numbers. "It's done," David typed. "The police ruled it an accident. No one suspects anything. When do I get my money?" My blood would have run cold if I still had blood. David had planned this. David had killed me. But why? For money? And who was he emailing? Over the next few days, I investigated. Being a ghost had some advantages. I could go anywhere, walk through walls, listen to private conversations. I discovered that David had taken out a $2 million life insurance policy on me 6 months ago. I had signed the papers without reading them carefully. Trusting my husband, what a fool I had been. The insurance company was going to pay out within 30 days. David was going to be rich, but that still didn't explain everything. Who had he been emailing? Who else was involved in my murder? I got my answer when I followed David to a meeting in a parking garage downtown. A man was waiting for him. A large man with cold eyes and a scar on his cheek. He looked like exactly the kind of person you'd hire to commit murder. "Where's my payment?" the man asked David. "The insurance money hasn't come through yet," David said nervously. "I need you to wait just a few more weeks." "I don't like waiting," the man said dangerously. "We had a deal. I ran her off the road like you asked. Now I want my $50,000. So that was it. David had hired this man to kill me, to run my car off the road and make it look like an accident. But I still had questions. When had David planned this? Why did he want me dead instead of just divorcing me? I followed him everywhere for days, piecing together the truth. I discovered that David's architecture firm was failing. He had made bad investments and was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. He needed money desperately. Divorcing me wouldn't have helped. We'd signed a prenup, and he wouldn't get much. But if I died, he'd get the house, my life insurance, and all our joint assets. He had planned the whole thing. Started the affair with Rachel to distract me, to make me emotional and upset. Then hired a hitman to run me off the road on a night when I was too distraught to think clearly. It was the perfect murder. Except for one thing. I had come back as a ghost, and now I knew the truth. But what about Rachel? Had she been part of the plan? Or was she just a pawn? I followed her next, floating invisibly behind her as she went about her life. Rachel was acting strange. She seemed nervous, constantly looking over her shoulder. She was drinking more than usual, and she kept calling David, who wasn't answering. Finally, she showed up at our house, my house, and pounded on the door. "David! Let me in! We need to talk!" David opened the door, looking annoyed. "What are you doing here? Someone might see you." "I don't care anymore," Rachel said, pushing past him. "I can't do this. I can't live with the guilt." "What guilt?" "Emily's death was an accident." "Was it?" Rachel demanded. "Because the more I think about it, the more things don't add up. You left right after her that night, and you came back an hour later looking strange. What did you do, David?" David's face changed. The mask of the grieving husband fell away, and I saw the cold calculation underneath. "Be very careful what you're accusing me of, Rachel. Tell me the truth," Rachel said, her voice shaking. "Did you have something to do with Emily's death?" David was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, a terrible smile that made him look like a stranger. "What if I did?" he asked. "What are you going to do about it? You're just as guilty as I am." "What? No! I didn't know you were going to hurt her." "Maybe not," David said. "But you helped me. You distracted her. You kept her emotional and off balance. You played your part perfectly. Rachel stumbled backward like she'd been slapped. No, I loved Emily. She was my best friend. And yet, you slept with her husband? David said coldly. You weren't thinking about friendship then, were you? Rachel started crying. I'm going to the police. I'm going to tell them everything. David's expression darkened. I don't think you will. Watch me, Rachel said, turning toward the door. But David moved faster. He grabbed a heavy bookend from the table and swung it at Rachel's head. I screamed, but no one could hear me. I tried to stop David, but my ghostly hands passed right through him. Rachel crumpled to the floor, blood pooling beneath her head. She wasn't moving. David stood over her, breathing hard, still holding the bloody bookend. Stupid woman, he muttered. You should have kept your mouth shut. He checked Rachel's pulse. She was still alive, but barely. I watched in horror as David made a phone call. I need your help, he said to whoever answered. There's been an accident. Another one. 20 minutes later, the man from the parking garage arrived. He looked at Rachel's unconscious body and shook his head. You're getting sloppy, David. This is going to cost you extra. Just make it look like an accident, David said. Like she fell. Or overdosed. I don't care. Just make it go away. The man dragged Rachel out to his car while David cleaned up the blood from the floor. My best friend who had betrayed me but who was also a victim in her own way was going to die because of my husband. And I couldn't do anything to stop it. I followed the hitman's car, floating behind it, invisibly. He drove to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. He dragged Rachel inside and dumped her on the concrete floor. She was starting to wake up, moaning and touching her head. Please, she whispered. Please don't hurt me. Nothing personal, the man said, pulling out a syringe. Just business. I had to do something. But what could a ghost do? In my desperation and rage, I focused all my energy on the syringe in the man's hand. To my shock, it started to shake. The man looked at it, confused. Then the syringe flew out of his hand and smashed against the wall. What the hell? The man said, looking around. I had moved something. I had affected the physical world. Maybe I wasn't as powerless as I thought. I focused harder, channeling all my anger and fear. A metal pipe on the floor suddenly lifted into the air. The hitman's eyes went wide with terror. What's happening? The pipe flew across the room and hit him in the head. He fell to the ground, unconscious. Rachel stared in shock and fear at the floating pipe. Then she scrambled to her feet and ran from the warehouse. I had saved her, but I had also revealed that something supernatural was happening. What would Rachel do now? Would she go to the police? Would she tell anyone what she saw? I followed her home and watched as she locked herself in her apartment, shaking and crying. I'm losing my mind, she kept saying. There's no such thing as ghosts. There's no such thing as ghosts. But she was wrong. There were ghosts. I was proof. And now that I knew I could affect the physical world, I could finally get revenge. I spent the next few days practicing my abilities. I learned that strong emotions made me stronger. Anger especially gave me power. And I had plenty of anger. I could move small objects easily now. Larger objects took more effort. I could make lights flicker. I could create cold spots that made people shiver. And I could appear in mirrors and reflective surfaces just for a moment. Just a glimpse, but enough to terrify someone. David was going to pay for what he did. But I had to be smart about it. I couldn't just kill him. That would be too quick, too easy. No. I wanted him to suffer first. I wanted him to know fear. I wanted him to go mad with terror before I finally took my revenge. So I started haunting him. It started with small things. David's keys would disappear and reappear in strange places. Doors would slam shut when there was no wind. Lights would flicker. At first, David didn't notice much. He was too busy celebrating his upcoming insurance payout. But then things escalated. One night, David woke up to find all the photos of me in the house had been turned to face the wall. Every single one. Another night, something wrote, "Murderer," in the steam on his bathroom mirror while he was in the shower. David started drinking heavily. He wasn't sleeping well. He kept looking over his shoulder. "Who's there?" he would shout into empty rooms. "Is someone there?" "Yes, David. I'm here. I'm always here. Watching you, waiting. 2 weeks after my death, David finally saw me. He was lying in bed, half asleep, when I gathered all my strength and appeared at the foot of the bed, just for a moment translucent and glowing, my wet hair hanging in my face, my clothes still dripping with lake water. David's eyes opened, and he saw me. He screamed a high, terrified scream. "Emily? Emily?" I smiled at him, a cold, terrible smile. Then I vanished. David jumped out of bed and ran through the house, turning on every light, checking every room. "You're not real," he shouted. "You're dead! You're dead!" "Yes, David. I'm dead. You killed me. And now I'm back." After that night, David fell apart. He saw me everywhere, in mirrors, in windows, in shadows. Sometimes I was really there. Sometimes it was just his guilty conscience making him see things. He couldn't tell the difference anymore. He stopped going to work. He stopped showering. He stopped eating. He just sat in the house, drinking and jumping at every sound. Rachel tried to reach him, but he wouldn't answer her calls. The hitman tried to get his money, but David ignored him, too. David was losing his mind, and I was enjoying every moment of it. But I wasn't done yet. Not quite. On Halloween night, exactly 1 year after my death, I made my final move. David was alone in the house, drunk and paranoid. He had boarded up some of the windows and mirrors, trying to keep me out. But you can't keep out a ghost. I appeared in front of him, fully visible this time. Not translucent, but solid-looking. Real. "Hello, David," I said. And this time he could hear me. David fell out of his chair, scrambling backward. No, you're not real. Ghosts aren't real." "But I am real," I said, moving closer. "You killed me, David. You hired someone to run me off the road. You murdered your wife for insurance money." "It was an accident," David screamed. "It was supposed to look like an accident." "There it is," I said coldly. "A confession. Thank you." David looked confused through his drunken haze. "What?" That's when the police burst through the door. Rachel was with them, along with several officers. "He just confessed," Rachel shouted. "You all heard him. He admitted he hired someone to kill Emily." Rachel had gone to the police after all. It had taken her time to work up the courage, to overcome her own guilt. But she had finally done the right thing. She had told them everything about David's debts, about the affair, about David's suspicious behavior the night I died. The police had been investigating quietly, gathering evidence, and tonight, they had set up recording equipment in the house and sent Rachel in to confront David, hoping he would confess. He had. Thanks to me driving him mad with guilt and fear, he had finally cracked and admitted everything. David was arrested on the spot. The hitman was arrested an hour later. Both of them would spend the rest of their lives in prison. As the police led David away, he looked around wildly. "The ghost! Tell them about the ghost! Emily's ghost is haunting me!" The officers exchanged glances. "Sure, buddy. The ghost. Let's get you to a nice, quiet cell." David continued screaming about ghosts as they put him in the police car. Rachel stood in the doorway, crying. "I'm so sorry, Emily," she whispered. "I'm so sorry for everything I did. I hope someday you can forgive me." I looked at my former best friend. She had betrayed me terribly, but she had also redeemed herself in the end. She had brought my killer to justice. Maybe, in time, I could forgive her. Maybe. With David arrested and my murder solved, I felt something change. A warmth surrounded me, and I saw a light in the distance, bright and welcoming. It was time to move on. Time to leave this world and go to whatever comes next. But before I left, I did one last thing. I appeared to Rachel one final time, standing in a beam of moonlight in her living room. She gasped when she saw me. "Emily? Thank you," I said softly, "for doing the right thing in the end." "I'm so sorry," Rachel sobbed. "If I could take it all back." "I know," I said, "and that has to be enough. Live a good life, Rachel. Be a better person. That's how you make it up to me." "I will," Rachel promised. "I swear I will." I smiled at her, a real smile this time, not the cold, vengeful smile I had given David. Then I turned toward the light and walked into it. The warmth enveloped me like a hug. The pain and anger that had kept me tied to earth fell away, and I felt peace for the first time since my death. I was moving on. I was going home. But as I passed through the light, I looked back one last time at the world I was leaving. David would spend his life in prison, haunted by guilt and memories. Rachel would spend her life trying to atone for her betrayal. And me? I had gotten justice. I had gotten revenge. I had won. The night I became a ghost had been the worst night of my life. But it had also given me the power to expose the truth and punish the man who killed me. Not everyone gets that chance. As I finally let go of the physical world and embraced whatever awaited me beyond, I smiled. I had been murdered, betrayed, cast aside like I didn't matter. But I had come back. I had fought. I had won. And that, I realized, was the most powerful thing of all.